Everyone has a story to tell. It's my mission to tell it. Unscripted, unedited, we are on the record. Joining us. We are ready to go on the record today. Joining me is Tom Wallace. Actually, we were hoping to have the prompter. There we go. Okay. But this is what I love. This is what I love about live and breaking news. By popular demand, we're bringing back the dad effect, a father's influence. Tom Wallace is here, the managing partner of Florida Funders. You are the godfather of tech, but today we're not talking about that. We're talking about your influence as a dad, and later on in the second half of the show, we have Judge Michelle Sisco. But Tom, I'm sorry, I have not let you get in a word yet because I was, but thank you for being here.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, Sarina, and thanks for having me on the show.
So tell us a little bit first about yourself and about your company.
Okay. Myself, originally I'm from Pittsburgh, and I grew up in a blue-collar family. Neither of my parents graduated from high school. In college, I started studying computers and got into computers and started my first company a couple of years out of college. I was 23, and I started with my best friend. And everybody told us, you guys are idiots. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to fail. Which they were right about us being idiots and not knowing what we were doing, but and then we were going to end up hating each other. Well, that was about 3-4 companies ago and 3 decades ago. So we're still in business together today. He's one of my partners at Florida Funders. To fast forward, after building companies and selling them for 30 years, my partners and I started Florida Funders. Actually, when it started, but we took over Florida Funders. It was fledgling. Somebody else had started it. And what excited us about Florida Funders is a bunch of us have been working on building the tech ecosystem in Florida for really 20, 30 years. And something came along, the Jobs Act of 2012 that Obama put through that legitimized and legalized crowdfunding. And if you think about why any area becomes known for technology, it always comes down to two things, and that's capital and talent. And those were the things that were missing in Florida, more on the capital side than the talent. There was always a dearth of early stage, of capital available for early stage technology companies. So that's the void we're trying to fill, and that's what we do at Florida Funders. So we like to say we're on a mission to change Florida from Sunshine State to Startup State, and we're on a mission to make Florida a place where our best and brightest entrepreneurs stay here to start their companies and not leave us and go to Austin or Boston or Silicon Valley or wherever.
Well, what an honor, though, too, when Forbes magazine also named Tampa as #1 in emerging tech companies, and they linked your company and gave you credit for that. So come on, modesty aside, modesty aside. I mean, that's
yeah.
great,
We don't
Tom.
deserve all the credit, but we do work hard. We've invested. I think we've been at this about 5 years. We've invested in about 60 companies. We manage another 50 portfolio companies for the state of Florida, and we have about $100 million that under management that we invest in these companies. And we not only invest in them, but we try to help the founders and entrepreneurs. We coach them and mentor them, and we make introductions and do everything we can to help them be successful.
Well, you were just honored also in Tampa, so I'm going to call for the video. And one of your greatest accomplishments of all, I always say one of my greatest accomplishments is my daughter, Sammy, who hates being mentioned on the show, but I mention her. Yours is your beautiful daughter, Kirby, who was supposed to be here, but she, following your work ethic, has a big meeting in Atlanta, so can't be here. But I want to share the video and go to this right now so we can introduce her to the audience.
This room tonight is full of people that Tom has supported over decades. And he's made, not only has he himself been a huge success and a contributor, but he's contributed to other people's success as well. And to me, that makes Tom one of my big heroes.
When you think about the number of people and lives that he's touched, probably tens of thousands in the local community through the Tampa Bay Technology Forum and all the different companies, and the people that he's helped and assisted and invested in, and people like me, when I was building my company, and I got to take a lot of advice from Tom.
He's an extremely hard worker. He's completely self-made, and he's been working since he was a newspaper boy at a mere age of like 13 or something. So he definitely is determined. He also really cares about what he does. He's extremely passionate, and he puts his all into every day at his job.
Just in the past 3 or 4 years, we're at a whole level of recognition in the Tampa Bay area for being a place, if you want to start a business, Tampa Bay's the place to come. And Tom has been a real part of that.
He's always said he does what he loves and he loves what he does. He's always been the person that looks forward to Mondays, which I found annoying as a child.
He's a very focused, driven, success-oriented individual. But he also has a very caring heart. And he's a great listener. He demands performance.
You know, when you're talking to him and you're in a one-on-one, whether it's a business or personal setting, makes everybody feel super comfortable and, you know, just a really genuine person.
My dad was chosen to be in the Tampa Bay Business Hall of Fame because he's built the tech scene in Tampa from the day he moved here from the ground up. He started a variety of companies, and now in his later years, he's chosen to give back to a lot of other entrepreneurs and startups and pay it forward, which I think is really admirable. And he makes me want to start my own company one day.
Tom, congratulations again. You truly are the godfather of tech in Tampa Bay and have put us on the map. But from a personal standpoint, thank you for also being my personal friend for many, many years.
Tom, welcome to the Tampa Bay Business Hall of Fame. Unlike other Hall of Fames, this does not mean that your career is over. So good luck and keep on going.
Dad, welcome to the Tampa Bay Business Hall of Fame. You are so deserving and we all love you so much. And I'm so proud to watch all that you've achieved.
Guys, I called him grandfather by accident.
She did, and I'm never going to forgive you for it, Sarina.
But listen, it's like my English is my fifth language.
Well, I don't even like the godfather thing. I love the grandfather thing. Let me get that knife out of my back.
Tom, when you watched that video, had you seen it before the night of the ceremony?
No, I had not, and it was. That's very flattering, and thank you so much, Alex Sink and Steve McDonald, two of my heroes. And you know, I've just played a part in this. They give me way too much credit, but it was really touching, and it meant a lot to me.
Well, and Alex Sink has been on the show, actually. She was on the show.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she really is amazing. But hearing your daughter, do you have tears in your eyes?
Yeah, I was tearing up a little bit.
Yes, he is tearing up. Oh my gosh.
You had to bring that out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but look, I mean, yes, but that's so moving and touching. So why are you tearing up? Is it it was so sweet, the things that she said?
Yeah, it was just sweet to hear that from your daughter. I mean, obviously, you know, I don't know it's obvious, but I'm very close to my daughter, and I've been a single father, and she is a great mother, too. I don't want to take anything away from her mother, but we got divorced when my daughter was maybe 11 years old. So as I was building companies and working a lot, I was still trying to be a really good father. And I remember I would have her every other Thursday, pick her up from school, and then Monday morning I'd take her to school, and then I'd have her some in between. But every other weekend, my friends would make fun of me, and they'd say, because they'd want to go golfing or a ski trip or do something, and they'd be, it's a Kirby weekend, forget it, he's out. So I would never go on dates, I would never get a babysitter, I would never do anything else. I'd cherish that time with her, and we hung out, and she never became that teenager that didn't want to hang out with her dad. I guess I was really fortunate, because I know when I was a teenager, I wasn't hanging out with my parents, but she never did that, and always wanted to spend those weekends with me, and we had just wonderful times and many trips together. And over the summer I would have her half the time and would go different places, and I've always had a love of adventure and a love of travel, and I think I taught her that. And I think that's one of the best ways. I love learning, and I think it's one of the best ways we learn is when we visit other places, especially other countries, and get an appreciation for other people and their circumstances and their situations.
Well, I so appreciate you getting emotional on the show and showing that true emotion, because I think the dad effect, there is definitely something to it. So on that note, we're going to go to a break. We're going to go to Studio B, and we are going to continue this conversation with one of my rock stars, Judge Michelle Sisco. So we'll be right back.
I'm Sarina Fazan, a journalist, producer, and podcast host. With a background in television news, I know how much time and talent it takes to produce a broadcast quality production. But no more. Red House Streaming offers a simple, cost-effective method for capturing live action and streaming it in real time to YouTube, Facebook, or any other website. From single camera shoots or multi-camera productions, conventional or virtual sets, and from the state-of-the-art Red House Streaming Studios to remote locations, the professional crew at Red House Streaming, backed by the technology and reputation of CP Communications, allows you to produce more content at a lower cost and with little to no engineering required. That's why my podcast, On the Record with Sarina Fazan, is streamed live from the Red House Streaming Studios each week. Contact Red House Streaming today at 800-762-4254 or online at cpcoms.com to learn more. I'll see you in the studio.
Hi, guys, welcome back. I'm sorry, I was like waiting to see if the graphic popped up. Thank you for joining us on the record. We've been talking to Tom Wallace, the managing partner of Florida Funders, and now Judge Michelle Sisco joins us on this episode. We're talking about A Father's Influence, Part 2, The Dad Effect. So, Judge, before you talk about yourself a little bit, I want to share with the audience. The University of Florida, thank you so much to the class at the University of Florida, has been studying my website. And it's their class project. Is that not cool?
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, that is
Very
really
cool.
cool, right? I mean, they reached out to me and said, hey, can we look at your website? I'm like, okay. But we've been analyzing a lot on which shows trend the most. Love in America, which is not surprising. I've just set up my 8th couple, by the way, that's getting married.
Wow.
Yes, and I will be officiating the wedding for the first time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am very excited about that. But one of the top performing shows is A Father's Influence, and that was your show, Michelle, with your dad, Paul Peden.
Amazing.
So tell us about you and tell us about that show. I mean, I can talk about it, but I'd like you to talk about it.
Right. Well, the show was great, and it was very interesting, Tom, because I was watching when you were speaking with Sarina, and there's a lot of similarities between you and my own dad. So the same thing, he grew up in a blue-collar household, and his father was a World War II veteran and was a mechanic after the war ended, and my dad worked a full-time job from the time he was 12 years old. Like, he, had a very, very strong work ethic. And so that, when I was listening to you, it was interesting, the comment, kind of similarities, and he's very much an entrepreneur like you are. And I often tell people that when I've met, particularly men, and women who are entrepreneurs, there's a certain fearlessness when it comes to money, and they are very generous by nature. And I think it's because people that have made their own money aren't afraid to lose it, and they're not afraid to give it away because they know tomorrow they can wake up and do it all over again. So I do think that's a common trait that I find with people who are kind of self-made, and I really appreciate that. So I was on the show with my own dad. It was before Father's Day, and he's one that hates to talk about himself, but I convinced him. I basically called in a favor for Father's Day and said, please come up to Tampa, and my dad's in the restaurant business down in Fort Myers. Said, please come do this show with me. It'll be fun. We'll have a good time. And he reluctantly agreed, but he did do it, and we actually did. It was a really great moment, and it was a great moment, too, to kind of share stories, because there are things that happen as a kid that have great impacts on you, and that I don't know that as a parent you recognize the significance, and it can be a very small thing, but it can have a tremendous effect. And so it was kind of interesting just to swap stories as far as, you asked my dad, like, what was the moment that made you proudest? And then I talked about a day with him in Montana that taught me a lot about persevering and not just giving up at the first sign of trouble. So it was great. It was a great thing to do.
I have to say, like, everybody who's been on the show, and after they leave this experience, they do say that it was a lot more fun than they thought it would be.
Right.
And because it is a conversation, it is a conversation. So Tom, speaking of that, the dad effect, right? I have to say, on my 50th podcast, for the first time, I really opened up about my life and how I ran away from home and chose, my career over an arranged marriage. But I will say, I think what got me through that time alone was the amazing relationship I had with my dad, who I saw as a hero, still do, even though he wasn't present in my life, but there. So when we hear that, and we hear all those studies, about having a father present, would you both agree with that?
Sure, absolutely. I think growing up, especially in today's day and age, there's a lot of challenges for kids out there. And, and it takes two parents. I mean, sometimes one can do it and do it really well, but I think it really takes two ideally. And I think having, especially with a daughter, I think, you have I had a special relationship with my mother. I mean, I had a good relationship with my father, but I had very special. My mother was she ruled the roost. So in our family, my mother made every major decision, and she was the one that I really give credit for me being an entrepreneur, and my brother's an entrepreneur, and we both learned it from her. And so I think that parental influence, whether, father, mother, I think when it's the opposite sex, I think it's even more profound.
Why do you think that is? Because it's true. I've only done a father's influence. I haven't done a mother's influence, yet. But why do you guys think that, is it the opposite sex that you just get along better? I mean, Sammy has an amazing relationship with her dad as well. I know Sophie has a great relationship with her dad. Not that they don't with us either. Right.
I think a lot when it comes to being, particularly a woman in the workplace, dads can show you, and I don't want to say how to be a risk taker necessarily, but they can really, as far as, they give you a different kind of encouragement than your mother does. At least my mother. My mother's very much, and I say this all the time, my mother's always told me I was the best, even if I wasn't. And which is wonderful. Like, it's good to always have a cheerleader, right?
Yeah.
But my dad would give me more of a clear-eyed assessment of things. And I think that has really served me well. And I think one thing that my father taught me that has served me well in my job is to lean into the wind and to not shy away from, staring into the breach. And if problems arise, to address them head on. And I really think that that's something that a father can teach a daughter. Mothers are more protective, and they want to save you from, heartache and problems. And I think dads can be a little bit like, no, go ahead. You're going to make mistakes. Your heart's going to be broken. Things are not going to go your way, but you're going to bounce right back. And then tomorrow will be the new day, and you'll move on. So
yeah, I would agree with that. I think by the nurturing side of the mothers, I think fathers tend to do the tough love thing.
Yes.
I know that's the role I play in our relationship with my ex-wife and my daughter. And I'm the one that's always like, come on, suck it up, Buttercup.
Right, right.
You can do this.
Yes, yeah.
Adversity. I was just talking to her last night about this. Listen, overcoming adversity is how you grow. It's how you get stronger. It makes you a better
100%.
person. Don't shy away from it.
Yeah,
embrace it.
My dad's favorite saying growing up was pain builds character. And so that is, as a child, not necessarily comforting, not a comforting quip, but I think to rephrase it, what he meant was, and it's true, life can be hard. And there will be challenges you don't see coming. And so you need to have somewhere inside you the grit and the resiliency to kind of say, all right, this didn't work out great, or this isn't being paved with, roses and champagne. This isn't just being handed to me. What am I going to do to achieve my goals? So I think, that's an important part of what a dad does.
And also, were you going to say something, Tom? Go ahead.
Well, I just think when you work hard at something, then you appreciate it more. We've all met people that are given a lot in life, whether it even be not necessarily financial, it might be financial, but it may be just talents and they don't have great appreciation. When you really have to work hard for something and you earn it, that means so much more to you.
Absolutely. And just quickly, because we should have talked about this. So Kirby is working right now in Atlanta, right? She is. When she said on the video, which was so sweet, that she wants to have her own company. How did that make you feel?
Oh, I loved it, and it's kind of funny because we would have certain shows and things we'd watch, and very early on she got into Shark Tank, and that's pretty much my life is Shark Tank. Right? So I really could relate to it. I'm obviously an investor in technology companies, so I get pitched all the time. And when she fell in love with that show, it's like, and she would have a lot of good ideas and would watch it together, and she'd say, I don't like that one. And I think she has a little bit of a knack for it, so I hope she does it someday. But it was great to hear it. And I mean, that's what I pretty much do. I encourage young people to start companies. And I tell them, do it while you're young. Do it before you have children, before you have all these commitments. Do it while you're young, and it's a great time to be an entrepreneur.
That's one of Sammy's favorite shows, too. She's obsessed with that show, or was obsessed with that show. Let me ask you, do you feel, too, in all the articles that we've read, through the years, a daughter especially who has a very strong bond with her father does choose the right guy? or has a tendency to choose the right guy? I know you're
I'm
not a
hoping so.
psychologist.
I have my fingers crossed.
And I know you're not a psychologist or anything, but do you feel that, because there's a difference between being cocky and confident, and I feel that father's presence can help build a girl's confidence. Like if a father treats her well, right, you're going to expect the guy that you date to treat you well. I'll start with you, Tom. What do you think?
I like to think that's true, and again, I'm very hopeful that my daughter meets the right guy, a good guy, and she's only 25 and she's dating, and so that hasn't happened yet for her, but I'm confident it will, and if I play some small part in it, that's great. I don't know.
He's so humble and modest. All right, let's go to you. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Okay,
yes. So, Michelle, let's go to you then, Judge.
Yes.
Do you feel that with a strong father figure, girls can become more confident?
Yeah, they absolutely can. But I mean, I had a great dad. But I mean, I kissed a lot of frogs before I found my husband. Listen, that's just part of it, I think. But I ultimately, when I made the decision to get married, I did pick a great guy who has the same name as my dad, which is funny.
That is funny.
But really, the most important thing I think about that was there are a lot of the core values that my dad has that my husband has. And so I think that is, really the best thing any dad can do for their daughter is to instill those core values and tell your daughter, stick to your guns. You need to understand, marriage forever is a very long time. And so, when it comes to the core values, those are the things that matter, the most, I think, when it comes to, selecting a partner.
So my daughter went on a date recently, and I said, well, how did it go? What did you think of the guy? And she said, well, Dad, she's a vegan, so, right? She's like,
so Sammy, what the heck? Not anymore, but oh my gosh. Okay, all right, go ahead.
She's like, well, Dad, he hunts, and he kills animals. I'm like, well, that's kind of a side thing.
Yeah.
It's a hobby. I don't think you should throw, not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, if that's his biggest vice, that might be something you might want.
Right.
She's like, I don't know if I could be with somebody that's killing animals. I'm like, oh, well.
You never know. Okay, I don't mean to go to this area, but we're going to anyway. So, my sister, sadly, unfortunately lost her husband. Great dad, doctor, never smoked a day in his life, and died of lung cancer within 6 months.
It's horrible.
Thank you. Horrible. But there are a lot of kids out there that don't have dads. Whether, with my sister, it was very tragic, but there are absentee dads. Mm-hmm. There are, there's countless stories. You've seen it so many times as a judge. Do you feel a man could step in as a father figure and help provide that hole, even if they're not physically, biologically your dad? I know you guys aren't psychologists. I just want to throw this out there. Dr. Barbara Cohen was supposed to be on the show too.
Yes.
But we couldn't. I was going to have a psychologist on the show to answer these questions, but so I'm just throwing them to you guys. Sorry.
Plain a psychologist.
Yes.
Sure. I mean, I think so. And we talked about this when I was on the show with my dad, in that I do see in my line of work a lot of the repercussions of particularly fatherless children, and in some instances motherless children, and that they've been abandoned by parents, one or both, and oftentimes are being raised by grandparents. And yes, absolutely, if you can find someone to step in and be that mentor. What's all children need is, and I say this all the time, they need to feel that they are loved and that they are safe, and that they are being heard and that they're secure. Like that's all a child really needs. And whoever is providing that to them and is keeping them safe, anybody can do that role.
So I've been a big brother with big brothers, big sisters. I've had a little brother since he was 9, and he's 19 now. And I've been very involved in his life, and much more than a normal big brother would be. And so this is near and dear to my heart. And we're close. He struggles a lot. He didn't finish school. He didn't finish high school. He doesn't have a job presently. He doesn't drive. And I've tried to make a difference. I've tried to do that. And I think he can work. in fairness, he's a good kid. He was dealt a bad hand in life. His father was incarcerated when I first met him, and he's never met his father. His father's never been involved in his life. And I think it's very challenging. I think it's one of the many things that he has, dealt with emotionally and had a very difficult time with.
Tom, but I think that says a lot about you to step in and to try to make a difference. Would you encourage others to do that as well?
Oh yeah, I mean it's you get more than you give. You really do, and you learn a lot. And there are just so many kids out there that need. Big Brothers Big Sisters is a wonderful organization, and there's so many kids out there that need that don't have a mother, don't have a father, they do both, and you can make a difference. So yeah, I would encourage everybody.
Well, what's interesting with that is, it's hard to prove a negative, and so it's hard to come back and say, okay, your involvement saved this child from X, Y, and Z, but your involvement probably did save that child from X, Y, and Z. And so while that child may not have necessarily at this point in his life necessarily done all the things that you would hope that a kid would do, nonetheless, there's a lot of things he has not done, that a lot of choices kids make that are in similar situations, that your influence has probably kept him more on the straight and narrow than not. So that you should be commended.
Well, thank you for that. I don't know if that's true. I've tried.
Well, she's a judge, so she's
yes.
All right. So we are going to end on a high note, of course. So why do you guys think that a father's influence, a dad, the dad effect, why do you think that topic is popular? I mean, I honestly was like, I loved having you and your dad on my show, right? But when looking at this class and looking at all these numbers and analytics, I wonder, why do you think that topic transcends with people? That's not the right word, transcends, but my English again.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I really don't know. I think I think that the whole parental relationship can be somewhat complex, and so maybe that is just everyone has parents, and so maybe it's something that people can easily relate to as far as the connection. I think particularly with women and fathers, I think probably women are a lot of time wondering what their own personal dynamic, and then how will that manifest itself in my relationships and in my work. So I don't know. That's my best guess. I'm doing a poor job of playing the psychologist, so we need to get Miss Cohen or Dr. Cohen here so she can actually answer that question correctly.
No, you did a great job. Tom, any final thoughts on that? What do you think?
I think that when we look back on our lives and our childhoods, the two people that have the biggest influence on us are our parents. So I think everybody can relate to that, and sometimes that's very positive, sometimes it's not. But I mean, for a long time, they're the biggest, they're the ones that influence us the most. And in many families, I think, especially with the daughter-father, I think there's a deep connection there.
Would you like to say something to Kirby? Because this is live, but it's shared, it's on multiple platforms. Would you like to say anything to her?
I'm very proud of you, Kirby. Keep up the great work, and hope I didn't say anything to embarrass you in this so far.
That poor guy.
Because I know I'm going to hear about it if I did.
The poor Hunter is like, she's never going out with me again.
Oh, the Hunter's gone.
And Michelle Sisco, I want to let you know, your husband, Paul Sisco, is on our show next week talking about white-collar crime.
Okay.
Yes, so that's going to be, my Law and Order series.
Yes.
So, and Tom Wallace, I'd like to invite you back if this experience wasn't, I hope it was fun for you to talk about.
Oh, it was great fun.
To talk about tech,
Sure.
and more about tech. But in the meantime, were you going to say something? No? Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Wednesday is my favorite day of the week because we get to go on the record. Now, we put up this graphic to show where everybody can, watch the show. I didn't even know I was on. And now we're adding more platforms where you could share it. There you go. All right. So I really appreciate my team here at CP Communications and Red House Streaming again. And thank you so much, Judge Michelle Sisco, Tom Wallace, Managing Partner, Florida Funders, for joining us. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thank you, Sarina.
Bye.
Thanks, Sarina.